This is a story, a journey, really, years in the making, one that crossed state lines and generations. How does a veteran say thank you for your service? Proudly. That's how. And if needed, in a letter, straight from the heart. One letter can make all the difference in the world. Everything can change with one letter.
I find it very difficult to write a letter to someone I have never met. However, the information I have discovered about you warrants this letter.
This is a story of a letter, straight from the heart. It started with an electronic letter, an email, a request to contact Walt Stein, a 92-year-old decorated World War II veteran. Hello, may I speak with Walt, please? Mr. Stein lives in Hartville, Ohio with his wife, Sandy. Seems his old friend Butch was on the road somewhere in the Midwest. Butch couldn't be certain. It's been about 20 years.
Wow.
He stopped at a flea market and saw what has become the heart of this journey, a Purple Heart. A medal bestowed upon U.S. military personnel wounded or killed in action. You can trace its roots to the 1700s and George Washington.
He has a friend who thought he was dead, came to visit him for Veterans Day and brought with him a Purple Heart in a frame that he bought at a flea market.
A smaller sized medal that means, well, everything.
And I can't imagine anyone even trying to sell one of those.
Butch was afraid of who might try to buy this medal at the flea market, more afraid of what would happen to it. So he bought it. A medal someone gave so much to receive, to earn, sold in a flea market for about 20 bucks.
Apparently there's a lot out there, but this is the first one that I knew about that was sold at a flea market.
Now, what to do with it? Butch remembered his old friend Walt. Walt would know what to do. After all, again, Walt's a decorated World War II veteran. Served in the South Pacific, Okinawa, the Philippines, the Marshall Islands. Incredibly, Walt was on a committee years ago to have the U.S. Postal Service honor the sacrifices of military men and women by issuing a Purple Heart stamp. His heart beats to serve.
Medals don't come easy. He earned it, he deserves it, and I want him to have it.
Butch flew cross-country to deliver this package to Walt personally, on Veterans Day no less. And here's what Walt saw. A Purple Heart, dog tags, a bullet, and a couple faded photographs of a U.S. Army soldier. In the background of this shadow box, signed by the Secretary of the Army, a proclamation for wounds received in action February 2nd of 1971. A Purple Heart awarded to Private First Class Cox G. Bartlemay. The goal now for Walt? Find that man.
It means a lot to me. I don't know what it means to people who are non-veterans. Maybe it's just a medal. But they don't pass them out in Cracker Jack boxes anymore. You really have to earn them. And I know he earned his, and I want to get it back to him and or his family. It means a lot to me.
It means a lot to a lot of people, but especially a fellow service member. Walt served in WW2, PFC Bartlemay, in Vietnam.
It's just unimaginable not to have this going back to the original owner. That's how I feel about it. I wish everyone felt that way about it. If they did, it wouldn't have ended up at a flea market.
Oh, Walt and Sandy tried, but they just couldn't locate a Cox Bartlemay. No matter how hard they tried, they couldn't solve this mystery. But again, letters are funny things. Remember, one letter can make all the difference in the world. Everything can change with one letter.
I promised my friend I would do my best to find its owner. It is my mission to return this prestigious word to you.
Take a good look at that dog tag. That's not an X, that's a Y. It's Coy, not Cox. It's a typo on the letter. It's Coy Bartlemay. Well, hearts were pounding, and the search was back on.
It'd be really, really great for me to know that it got returned to the rightful owner. It really made me feel real good, and I cannot wait to see this happen.
And Coy had the lower part of his right leg blown off by a booby trap in Vietnam. After research and plenty of phone calls, the search paid off.
But wow, what a story this turned out to be.
According to his family, Coy and his mother lived in Canada. A U.S. Marine Corps veteran by the name of George Bartlemay and Coy's mother fell in love and married. George brought her and her son to Illinois. Coy grew up, took George's last name, found himself in the U.S. Army. In February of 1971, Coy had most of his right leg blown off in Vietnam. Came back to the U.S. While healing, getting used to that prosthetic leg, Coy drove a car, took a turn on a country road, and was killed in a single-car crash in December of '71 at the age of 21. A Purple Heart recipient, this Purple Heart, the one in the flea market. Coy never married, never had kids, but he did have a larger extended family. And this Purple Heart is now on its way back to Illinois, to the Bartlemay family, back where it belongs, all because this man cared.
Dear Coy, I find it very difficult to write a letter to someone I have never met.
One letter can make all the difference in the world.
I salute you, Coy, my fellow veteran.
Everything can change with one letter.
It broke my heart to learn that you had been deceased.
This letter.
Therefore, I could no longer return your Purple Heart personally, directly to your hands.
Straight from the heart, veteran to veteran, and this journey, step by step.
I would go if I have to go on my hands and knees. I'll go. Plan on it.
Was only beginning. And we are just getting started. Tonight on News 5 at 11, Walt makes that special delivery, taking that Purple Heart back where it belongs. Please join us tonight for a letter straight from the heart. Page 2. You know, the bond felt between veterans, it is special. Our series continues now, celebrating your service. Earlier today, we opened a letter straight from the heart. Tonight, the journey and the letter continue.
Dear Coy, I find it very difficult to write a letter to someone I have never met.
One letter can make all the difference in the world. Everything can change with one letter. This letter came straight from the heart, one veteran to another.
I salute you, Coy, my fellow veteran.
It's been Walt Stein's quest to have this Purple Heart reunited with its owner. Mr. Stein is from Hartville. He's a proud 92-year-old World War II veteran. A friend bought this Purple Heart years ago at a flea market for about 20 bucks.
I just can't imagine him not having it. I can't imagine why he don't have it. I can't imagine why it ended up in a flea market.
The chain of events. A misprint on the paperwork caused a mix-up. Remember, one letter can make all the difference in the world. After some research, we learned this is Coy Bartlemay's Purple Heart. Injured in Vietnam, Coy was killed in a car accident stateside in 1971. He was 21 years old. Never married, never had kids. But he has extended family in Illinois. So it was Walt's quest to return this Purple Heart to Coy's family.
I would go if I have to go on my hands and knees. I'll go. Plan on it.
Oh, we did. And we hit the road to bring a piece of family history back to the family. A 500-mile road trip in the dead of winter to Morton, Illinois, a town of about 16,000 people, many of whom are related to Coy, many of whom served this nation in the military. Underneath all this ice, Coy's name is included in Morton's Memorial Plaza, his name engraved in the town square, remembering fallen service members. Notice the last name is misspelled this time. Spelled correctly on the gravestone in Roberts Cemetery. Our quest to find Coy Bartlemay, Vietnam veteran, Purple Heart recipient, ended here.
My name is Walt Stein. Most of you know that by now.
That night, the presentation, Mr. Stein, who made that long trip, was introduced and so proudly and so eloquently handed over what he had been taking care of. A presentation straight from the heart.
Dear Coy.
And Walt read that letter, the one he wrote to Coy.
A Purple Heart is a symbol of honor for sacrifice, duty, good judgment, and royalty. Hence the color purple.
This Purple Heart, given by a grateful nation so many years ago, now reunited with a grateful family.
You're welcome, you're welcome, you're welcome.
Coy's family.
That is my nephew there, and they're the only two Bartleys left that are veterans.
Waiting in line to meet the man who never met Coy, but the man whose mission it was to bring that medal home.
I know right now my aunt and uncle and Coy are looking down, yeah.
Now, the family has differing ideas of just how the Purple Heart ended up in a flea market. Doesn't really matter. In a way, a piece of this family is now back home. This Purple Heart is home because a 92-year-old World War II veteran would not rest until it was. The bond strong, the will strong, the man stronger, the mission accomplished.
It broke my heart to learn that you had been deceased. Therefore, I would no longer return your Purple Heart personally, directly into your hands.
At the cemetery, just steps from Coy's grave, a reminder, bringing this whole thing full circle. One letter can make all the difference in the world. Everything can change with one letter.
May you rest in peace, Coy, until we meet again. On the other side.
This letter came straight from the heart, one veteran to another.
Respectfully, Walt Stein.